everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm going to talk today about the books that I read in January and February, and I gotta say, it's a bit of a slow start to the year. I managed to get through 5 books this month. There were a couple books that I started and just kind of wandered to something else. I want to try and get that under control. I'm doing too much of that, I find. Uh, and I'm gonna try and keep track of that better. My plan is every time I start a book now, I'm going to write down when I start a book so that when I have soft DNFs, I'm more aware of how often I do that. But to start off with, before I actually get into the books that I'm going to read, I have rediscovered how amazing the library is, or rather, since I grew up so rural, my library experience growing up was it was a tiny little library and it was just books. But now that I live in a city, I recently realized that I can get DVDs as well and like video games, board games, all that kind of stuff. So my boyfriend and I have kind of gone back in time. We're kind of just fed up with like streaming services and all that. Like we don't have any streaming services, Netflix, Disney, all the like popular ones. We just have whatever. There's like Tubi and Pluto, the ones that are free with ads. And so we have an old DVD player from his parents, and I realized, oh my God, like so there's an abundance of DVDs that are available at our library because there's quite a few movies that I've been wanting to see. Like I really like Yorgos Lanthimos. He's had a few movies that have come out recently. Like we went and saw Poor Things in theaters and I absolutely loved it. So I got Kinds of Kindness because I've been wanting to see it and I realized the library has it. So I'm going to be watching these this month because the other thing too is our library, you get the books and movies for a month. Like there's no difference between the books and movies. Like when you take it out, you're allowed to have it for a month and you can renew at our library up to 5 times as long as no one else reserves it, which I'm currently reading Babel and someone reserved it and it's due in 2 days and I'm not finished yet. I think I still have about 150 pages, so I have to finish that basically today and tomorrow. But I also read, sorry, this video is like all over the place. I also rented The Boy and the Heron because I've been wanting to see that forever. So yeah, I will never stop talking about how amazing libraries are. I want to get through my current TBR and then I mainly just want to use the library as much as possible. I want to stop, but mostly because of how expensive books are brand new in Canada, like a soft cover or a paperback, if it's not mass market, like mass market ones are like maybe $12-13, but a just regular paperback book is $25 Canadian now, and like this would be like $40 brand new in the bookstore for hardcovers. So I want to like use the library as much as possible. Yeah, so after that long introduction, the first book that I read this month was The Beginning by K.A. Applegate. It's the very last book in the Animorphs series, and I was doing it as a reread, all on audiobook, and I don't think I ever actually finished the series as a kid. I think I kind of just grew out of it because the series took years for her to write, so I think by the time it was finishing, I didn't have any interest in the book anymore, or I grew out of the middle grade reading range, so I never finished it because I finished the series and I had no recollection of how this book ended. Like I'm not gonna spoiler it because it's a massive series. I don't want to give away spoilers, but the book did not go in the direction that I thought it was going to. Because it was called The Beginning, I thought that it would be like a time loop kind of thing. Like they would, I was worried it was going to be one of those things where it was like it was all a dream and they're back at the very first book again. So it didn't go that direction, which I was very happy that it didn't. I would have been very upset if it was like a dream sequence type story. After I think there's like 62 books total in the series, including all the chronicles and the side stories. So yeah, I would have been very upset if that's how it ended. Uh, but I loved it. I remember there was controversy because it didn't end up how people expected, but it was a different ending. I loved how it ended. I wasn't like happy, but I don't want every single thing that I need. It doesn't need to be a happy ending. for everything, especially with the animorphs. I liked it because it was realistic of an ending. So yeah, very much enjoyed that. The next one that I read was The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. My boyfriend kept telling me that I need to read this, and it has been on my TBR forever. And I have a physical copy with all five. I think, yeah, there's five in the series total. So I read the first one. I didn't actually read out of this one though. I got the ebook of it because it had the illustration version. I wanted it specifically because it was the illustrated version with Chris Riddle as the illustrator, because I think I've said in a past video that the Edge Chronicles were my favorite series as a kid growing up, and yeah, they were illustrated by Chris Riddle, and as you can see, the drawings are just absolutely fabulous. See if I can find a good example. Like, for example, there's a page spread here. Just beautiful, wonderful. For me, it made these books come so alive for me. And the map at the beginning of the Edge world, just amazing. So reading the Hitchhiker's Guide just made the world come so much more alive with all the illustrations. And yeah, so far, I mean, I've only finished 5 books this year, but the Hitchhiker's Guide is sitting at my favorite book that I've read so far this year. Like 5 stars, easy. And the library has the movie, so the plan is to watch the movie next. And then the third book that I read. Oh no, I actually read 6 books in January and February, not 5. It's more than I thought. So the third book that I read was A Psalm for the Wild Built by Becky Chambers, and like she writes, I guess, like apocalyptic dystopian kind, like this book anyways kind of felt like in that genre, but it was hopeful. It was my first time, I think, reading like a dystopian future that actually had hope to it. So like you're following a tea monk and a wild robot, and it's very cute, it's very cozy, it's very heartwarming, and I really enjoyed it. And I also read that one as an ebook. So yeah, that one I would definitely recommend if you're, especially in these trying times, if you're looking for something that has a bit of hope to it. I think that's the perfect book for that. So next was another audiobook. I originally read Outlander series when I was 19, I think, when I found them. So I read the entire series when I was 19 to 20. So I finished the second last one, Written in My Own Heart's Blood. I re-listened to this in January because I have the currently last one in the series, which is Go Tell the Bees That I Am Gone. So I want to get to this at some point this year because I've had it for like 2 years now. But upon rereading the entire series, I don't enjoy it as much as I did when I was 19 and 20. I think because I've grown up and just realized more of the flaws there are, and mostly like the relationships type aspects. Like in Drums of Autumn, which is the fourth one, the entire book basically would have just not happened if one conversation happened between Roger and Bree. And it's just, I don't really enjoy Roger and Bree. They like get on my nerves. They got better as the books go along, but just these books definitely I kind of wish I hadn't reread them because they're not as good as I remember them, but I'm going to finish the book, and that too is another reason why I'm getting kind of like meh with the series, because I think it should have just been a trilogy. Like I think Written in My Own Heart's Blood is the 8th one, Go Tell the Bees That I'm Gone is the 9th one, and like like the series isn't finished. There's another one coming out. Like I don't know how many more books she's planning to make out of this. I think the series should have ended after the third one. It was a nice spot to like tie up the plot and the character development and everything. Like if she ended there, like it would have been great. I just feel like it's going on and on and on. Like I don't know how much more she can write. I've heard that the newest one that I have is, there's not a lot to it. Yeah, unfortunately, these books aren't holding up as much as I thought they would. And then the next one that I read, was The Happiness Project by Gretchen Rubin because my one of my best friends, I'm sorry if she ever watches this, my couple followers that I have on this channel, hopefully she doesn't see this, but it was she's recommended it to me a couple times now. Like she really loves the book and like she's always recommending it to people. So I was like, okay, I'll get to it. So I got the audiobook of it because it's like a self-help type book, like nonfiction. I tend to try and keep my audiobooks to either rereads or nonfiction. And yeah, unfortunately, it wasn't my favorite. This was my first self-help book, I think. And I don't know if it was because it was a self-help book or if it's because I just really don't like Gretchen Rubin. The book just didn't really land for me. So it's the Happiness Project. It's supposed to be about like she spends the year trying to become happier. So in my mind, I thought that the book was going to be more about like self-reflection and maybe meditation, just being more aware of yourself and what makes you happier. But Gretchen Rubin is very wealthy. I looked up in 2021, I think her net worth was 20 million, something around that, like multiple millions of dollars. So a very big portion of the book and like all of the advice that she gave was just a lot of like doing stuff that costs money and like buying a bunch of stuff to make you happier. I'm like, this is so materialistic. Like I was looking for more inward type ways to make you happier. Like to give you an idea, the entire first chapter, each chapter is a month of the year. So the first chapter was January. The entire chapter is about her cleaning out her closet because she has a ton of stuff. Like, okay, this isn't very useful for me. So I'd read the next chapter, and I think, oh, what was the next chapter? And then, yeah, I think the next chapter was about exercise. And that too, like, rubbed me the wrong way about her. She was constantly shoehorning in um, quotes to show that she's learned, and like she had to do research to know that exercise is good for you. And there was another part where she's like, yeah, I read that if you give a hug for more than 6 seconds, it releases oxytocin, and it makes you happier or whatever. I'm like, you had to do research to know that hugs are good. Like I thought this was common sense. With and also with the exercise, like I figured exercising is good for you was common sense, but okay. And then yeah, it was just because it was all just materialistic. I just got annoyed because every single time it was like, "Oh, exercise is good for you." So I went and started going with a personal trainer. I'm like, "Okay, that's great, Gretchen. How many people can afford to just start going to a personal trainer? Like they're expensive." Like what can the average person do that you're doing? She also like goes to a store and just picks three random magazines to. I forget what the point of the magazines were, but like magazines are they not like 20 bucks a magazine? Like I have to like think about these purchases before I do these things. Like not everyone just has an endless pit of money. So it just as the chapters went on and on, I'm like, okay, she's just constantly just doing things that cost money. Like this isn't what I wanted out of the book. So unfortunately, it was not a hit for me. I could just rant about uh how this book did not land for me, but I didn't want to the only reason I think I didn't DNF it was because my friend loves the book so much, but for me it just rubbed me the wrong way. I could not stand uh the author. She also came off as she just came off as very mean. Like oh yes, now I remember. Chapter 2 was all about not nagging your husband. Like I guess I love my boyfriend, like we don't nag each other. I didn't think that had to be done. Editing Alyssa here. I'm rewatching all that I said about the Happiness Project, and just listening to this is making me more riled up again of how much I dislike the book. Like I don't want to say things because my friend loved it so much, but I remember just getting so angry as I was reading the book because just it all just felt so surface level and just for me personally not useful. Like a lot of it was just common sense, and because she is so wealthy, a lot of it I was like, yeah, Gretchen, this is great, like that's great advice to have. but I don't have a lot of money, so I can't go do the things that I want to do to be happier. Like one chapter was about following your passion and your hobbies, like doing your hobbies and, just go for it. And I'm like, yeah, I want to go to the opera and the ballet. Like I would love to go to those kind of things more often, but I'm not made of money. That's why I don't go to these things. And another sore point was I really want to get a dog, but same thing, we haven't gotten a dog yet because I want to make sure I have money for, if like an emergency vet bill, like all those kind of things happen to come up. So I just got annoyed because it just was, she kept saying to do these things that cost a lot of time and money. Like not everyone just has all of this extra cash lying around that they can just go do these things. Like I guess yeah, people can, but they're going to go into a ton of debt. And then they're not going to be happy because they have to worry about all the debt that they've incurred doing all of these things to make them happier. Just this book, I'm just going to put it past me. But I do have one more thing to say. I found my notes I had kept while I was reading the book, and the chapter 11, I believe, is all about attitude, where she goes on about how you have to act nice to people. I'm like, what do you mean act nice? You should just be nice. So like this is what I mean by she rubbed me the wrong way. I'm like, she's very self-centered, self-absorbed. Like she doesn't seem to have a lot of empathy and caring for other people. She's very individualistic, because you should never act kind for the sake of, acting kind and being virtuous. You should just be a kind person. You should be kind to people. Like everyone deserves kindness. You shouldn't have to, oh yeah, I need to be kind. I have to act kind because I need to act kind because acting kind is what a good person does. It's like, no, Gretchen, a good person is a good person and is kind just because. They don't have to think about it and do it. They just are. I don't know. Like, I don't know if I'm getting too much into the semantics of the difference between acting and being, but just the having read her whole book, like she seems very much too self-centered. And she also mentions way too many times that she clerked for the Supreme Court, like very much like comes across as, look how great I am, I'm so amazing, constantly having to show how like all this cool stuff she's done and how she's better than you and she's way more learned than you. It just I don't see what my friend saw in this book. My friend is a very lovely person. I could go on. I don't know, I'm gonna stop. But anyways, I think maybe just self-help books are not for me. So the last book that I read uh, in February was The Edible Woman. I actually did this as a buddy read with a friend because I had two copies, so I gave her the other one. I had no idea what I was in for. The only other Margaret Atwood I've read so far is The Handmaid's Tale. This, I believe, is the first book that she ever published, and it came out in 1969, so a lot of it is just kind of going against what, the woman of the 1960s, early 1970s is expected to do. Like she's kind of torn in between, there's two men and the choices she makes, but because it's Margaret Atwood, there's quite a few bizarre things that happen. My friend didn't really care for it, but I didn't mind it. It definitely wasn't what I was expecting, but I thought it was pretty good. Yeah, I'm going to just quickly wrap this up because I need to go practice before I go to work. So don't forget to like and subscribe. It gives me the encouragement to keep going on with this. And thank you for watching.